On this video, I'm going to be reading in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, the visit of the Magi to our Lord. I'm going to be reading it in Greek, and then in Latin, and then in Hebrew. I just enjoy doing this. I'm not a Latin scholar. My training was in New Testament Greek, and my PhD was in Hebrew, ancient Near Eastern languages, but I'm enjoying trying to do a little bit of Latin as well. So my pronunciation may not be 100% accurate, but I'm working on the vocabulary as I'm going through it. If anyone wants to work along, that would be great. So we begin with the Greek. We've seen in chapter 1 the genealogy of our Lord, showing the Lord's legal right to the throne of David. This is followed then by the virgin birth of Jesus in chapter 1, the biological miracle of the virgin birth and fulfillment of Isaiah 7:14. I saw a double fulfillment there. I see a double fulfillment. An earlier son born of a lady who was a virgin that became a sign to Pekah and Retzin, or a sign to Ahaz, concerning Pekah and Retzin and the destruction of their, can I say, of what they're doing through the invasion of Assyria. But I think the ultimate fulfillment points to the biological miracle of the virgin birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. So I would see a double fulfillment in that text. So now we are at chapter 2 of the book of Matthew. Tu de Jesu genethentas in Bethlehem tes Judaias in hemerais Herodu tu basileos edu magoi apa anatalon paragenanta es Yerasaluma. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, Magi from the east came unto Jerusalem. The Latin reads, Cum autem natus esset Jesus in Bethlehem, Judaea in diebus Herodis regis, ecce magi ab oriente venerunt Erasalimam. And then the Hebrew, reading the Hebrew of verse 1, it reads, Vayehi ka asher nolad Yeshua bevet lechem Yehuda b'mei Horedos hamelech vayavohu megushim me'eretz mizrach Yerushalayim lemor. That is, it came to pass when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, that the Magi came from the land of the east of Jerusalem, or from the east of Jerusalem, saying. So now we have the Magi coming, and in verse 1, tu genethentes is a genitive absolute when Jesus was born, and it's a participle from genao, and we're looking at a aorist passive participle genitive singular from genao, and I think of the The luthes, luthentas, luthenti, luthenta is the aorist passive participial form. So now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, uh, in the days of Herod, behold, the Magi from the east, Perigenanta, came unto Jerusalem. From Paragenomai, here we have the aorist indicative middle, from Paragenomai, came into Jerusalem, saying. So then we read on, Megantes, pu estin ha tekthes, basilus ton Judaion, edamen gar autu, tan astera ente anatale, kai eothamen pras kunesai auto, saying, where is the one who is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. And the Latin then reads, Decentes, ubi est, qui natus est rex Judaeorum, videmus enum stellium eus in oriente, et venimos adorare eum. And then the Hebrew of that text reads, Aye Melech HaYehudim Hanolad Ki Ra'inu et Kochavo Bamizrah Benavo Lehishtachavot. And so just looking briefly at the grammar, notice saying is a legantes is a present participle nominative masculine plural from lego. Where is the one who is born? This is an aorist passive participle nominative masculine singular. So where is the one who is born King of the Jews? For we have seen an aorist indicative active first person plural. We have seen from Charao his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. Eothamen is from Erkamai. It is the aorist indicative active first person plural from Erkamai. Plus kunesai is from plus kuneo. It's the aorist infinitive active from plus kuneo. We have come to worship him. And just a word about the Latin here, decentes is also a participle. Where is he who has been born? We have a perfect participial form here, King of the Jews, for we have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. And I'm just thinking of the Hebrew reading of that text, where we have, where is the one, ha nolad, who is born? Here we have a participle, a cal participle, masculine singular from yalad, formerly a pei vav verb, the one who is born. For we have seen from ra'ah, a cal perfect first common plural from ra'ah, his star in the east, Bamizrah, Vanavo, and we have come Lehishtachavot to worship him. And notice here, the Hishtachavot is from Shachah, to worship. And I'm seeing this as a Hittite L, infinitive construct, to worship. So notice the Magi were those that looked at stars to try to determine what was going on. They were, you might say, stargazers to try to understand what was happening. And I think probably Numbers 24, verse 17, provides a background for this, where we see a star rising in Balaam's prophecy. And that possibly became something that had been talked about, and maybe the Magi were aware of that, and the Holy Spirit or the Lord moved in their hearts to travel to Bethlehem. It's also interesting as I think about this that the Lord is working with the Gentiles here. He's bringing them to see Jesus first of all. In Luke, it's the shepherds that see Jesus first. Here, it's the Gentiles. And that's another theme that Matthew is setting forth, I believe. So then we go to verse 3. And verse 3 reads, Akusas de Chabasilius, Herodes etarakte, kai pasa Yerasaluma met autu. And when King Herod heard, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Audiens autem Herodes rex turbatus, that is, hearing. Here we have a present participle in the Latin. We also we have a participle. Now, when Herod the king heard, here in the Greek we have an aorist participle, a nominative masculine singular from akuo. So when King Herod heard, he was troubled. Etarathe is from tarasu. It's the aorist indicative passive, third person plural, or third person singular from tarasu. So when Herod heard, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Herod was a very jealous and paranoid king. And so he is very troubled because he wants to be the only king. And notice here, the Latin has pretty much the same read with the Hebrew here. And now I'm looking at with the Greek, I should say. Now I'm looking at the Hebrew. Vayehi kishmoa horados hamelech et divrehim. That is, it came to pass as Herod heard their words. Notice kishmoa is from shama, to hear. It is an infinitive construct preceded by the inseparable kaf. So it came to pass as Herod the king heard their words, Vayiba'el hu v'cho Yerushalayim imo, that he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Vayibahel is from Bahal, to trouble, and here we have a nifal, imperfect, third masculine singular from Bahal. So he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. So then we move on to the next verse, and this is in verse 4. It reads, Kai sunagogon pantas tus, arche erus kai grammatius, grammates tu lau, apunthanata par auton, puha Christas genatai. That is, and gathering together all the high priest and scribes of the people, he inquired from them where the Christ is to be born. Notice here, synagogon is from synagogo. Here we have the participle, a present participle, nominative masculine singular. That is when he had gathered together the chief priest and the scribes of the people. He inquired of them where the Christ is being born. And then we read, in other words, he wants to know where he's being born. And so he goes to the religious leaders to try to find where the birth of Jesus was to be. And then we go to the Latin, et congregans omnes principes sacerdotum et scribas populi. That is, gathering together. Here we have a participle in the Latin as well. All the leaders of the people and the scribes, he was inquiring. Notice ski tabatur. He was, here we have an imperfect passive, he was inquiring ab eis ubi Christus nasceretur. That is, where the Christ was to be born. And reading in the Hebrew, it says, Vayekel et kol Roshei HaKohanim v'sofarei ha'am vayidrosh me'itam lemor efo yivaled HaMashiach. That is, and he gathered together all the heads of the priests and the scribes of the people, and he inquired from them, saying, where is the Messiah? Where will the Messiah be born? Yivaled is from Yalad, to give birth and or to bear. And here we have a nifal imperfect third masculine singular from Yalad, which was historically Yalad a pevav verb, valad. And we see that vav appearing here in this nifal form. And so then we go to verse 5, and it reads, Hoi de penalto, in Bethlehem, tes Judaias, hutos gar gegraptai dia tu prophetu. And he said to them, and they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet. Notice the grammar here, hoi de apon. Apon is from lego. It's the aorist indicative active, third person plural from lego. And they said to him, in Bethlehem, tes Judaias, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet. Notice gegraptai is from grapho. It's the perfect indicative active third person singular from grapho. For thus it has been written by the prophet. The Latin reads the same, et illi dixerunt eum. And they said to him, dixerunt is your perfect indicative active third person plural, the way that the aorist is translated in the Latin. And so they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. And then there's the Hebrew of verse 5, which reads, Vayidrosh me'itam lemor efo yivaled HaMashiach vayomaru. Here we go. And they said to him, vayomaru lo beveit lechem Yehuda ki chen katuv biyad hanavi. And they said to him, in Bethlehem, Beit Lechem of Judea, for thus it is written, katuv is your Cal passive participle from katav with the AU vowel pattern. It has been written uh, by the hand, literally, of the prophet. So now we'll see the quote going back to the prophet, driving home this point, Micah 5:2. And it reads, Kaisu Bethlehem, Ge Yuda, Udamos elakiste en tois hegamosin Yuda. Exu gar exelucitai hegumenos hostis poimane tan laanmu tan Yisrael. And in Bethlehem, or in you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, quoting Micah 5, although you are least among the provinces of Judah, for out of you will come forth the one who is the ruler, who will shepherd my people Israel. So notice here, although you are least among the provinces of Judah, out of you will come forth. Here we have your future indicative middle from exerkamai, will come forth the governor, egumenos, the one governing, who will shepherd. Poimane is your future indicative active third person singular from poimino, who will shepherd my people Israel. The Latin then reads, Et tu Bethlehem, terra Judae, nequaquam minima es in principibus Judae, ex te enim exiet dux, et reget populum meum Israel. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, although you are minimal, you are least among the provinces of Judah, out of you will come the ruler. Notice here, exiet is your future indicative active. Will come the ruler who will shepherd, another future, reget, will shepherd my people Israel. And then looking at the Hebrew, it reads, Va'ata Bethlehem Eretz Yehuda, ein echad sa'ir be'alfei Yehuda. Although you are least among the thousands of Judah or the provinces of Judah, ki mimacha yetze Moshel asher yereh et ami Yisrael. For from you will come forth the ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Notice here, Yetze is from Yatsah, was again a pei vav form, Vatsa, a cow imperfect third masculine singular from Vatsa. And notice when we add the yod prefix, the vav elides and drops out, and we have compensatory lengthening from the hirig to etc. So from you will come forth the ruler who will shepherd, the cow imperfect third masculine singular here from Ra'ah, my people Israel. So first of all, there is the fulfillment of this text from Micah 5:2. We're being told by Matthew. Then we're told that after this, the wise men were told to go back another way. Notice not to go back to Herod. I'm sorry, where Herod now is going to ask from them the time of the appearing of the star. Then later, they will go back another way. Notice here, tate Herodes lathra kalesas tus magus ekribusin par auton tan kranon tu phana menu asteras. That is, then Herod, when he privately called the Magi, inquired from them the time of the appearing of the star. Notice here, then Herod, when he had called from kaleo, it's the aorist participle nominative masculine singular from kaleo. So when he had called the wise men, akribosin from akribao, he inquired, aorist indicative active third person singular from akribao, to inquire from them the time of the appearing of the star. To phainomenu is from phino, to appear. So the time of the appearing, here we have a participle, a genitive, it's in the middle, a participle, genitive, masculine, singular, in the middle form, aorist participle, aorist middle participle, uh, from phino, of the appearing of the star. And then the Latin reads, Tuc Herodes, clam vocatis magis, diligentur didicit ab eus tempus stellae, quae apparuit eis. Then Herod, when he had called the Magi diligently, inquired from them the time of the star, which appeared, or which they had seen, or which appeared, I should say, to them. Notice, it's my understanding that the star here might have been the Shekhinah of God, the glory of God. We know that the glory of God appeared to Abraham when he was in Ur in the book of Acts, and I'm wondering if that could well be what we have here, the glory of God appearing. And because the star comes and goes, and if it was just a regular star, that wouldn't seem to make much sense to me. Then we read on in the Latin, excuse me, in the Hebrew of verse 7. It reads, Az kara horados la megushim baseter veyakur otam lada'at et heraot ha-kochav. That is, then Herod called to the Magi and in secret asked or inquired from them to know the time of the appearing of the star. Notice here we have the Cal perfect third masculine singular in Yakur, to inquire from Hakar. He inquired of them to know. Lada'at, here is the infinitive construct from Yada, the appearing, the time, to know the time, 8, that the star appeared, of the appearing of the star, an infinitive construct here, the time of the appearing of the star. And then we move on to verse 8, and it reads, And pimpsas autus eis Bethlehem epin, parutentes exeltasita agribos peri tu paidiu, epandechurete apagelate moi, hapos kago elthon praskuneso auto. And notice, and when he sent them into Bethlehem, he said, Go, search diligently concerning the child. And when you should find him, then I come, I might worship him. Notice here, and when he sent, Pimpsas is a participle, a temporal here, a aorist participle, nominative masculine singular from pimpo. So when he sent them into Bethlehem, he said, a pen from Lego, aorist indicative active, third person singular from Lego. Paruthentes, go. Notice here we have a participle from paruamai, go, having been gone, literally, an aorist passive participle nominative masculine plural from paruamai. So go and exitasitas, search diligently. Notice we have the participle followed by an imperative. And I pointed this out before. In Matthew 28:19, we have a similar construction. And I've noticed Matthew uses that all the way through. There will be a perfect passive participle followed by an imperative. And we see this in Matthew chapter 28 in the Great Commission. I'm just turning there to read it in the Greek text. Yes, it reads, Paruthentes, go, un mathetusata, and disciple. So here we have, again, a passive, aorist passive participle, nominative masculine plural from paruamai, followed by the imperative, mathetuo, disciple, the aorist imperative second masculine, the second person plural. And we have the same thing here, go and search diligently, the same kind of construction. Then, as we read the Hebrew of verse 8, notice it reads, Vayish lachem Beit Lechem. That is, and he sent them to Bethlehem. Vayomar lachu hikru hetiv al davar hayeled v'haya ki tim seun oto v'higatim li v'avoa Lahistachavot lo gam ani. That is, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go, lechu, and search diligently concerning the matter of the child. And it then shall be, when you shall find him, then you declare to me that I might come to worship him, that indeed I might come also to worship him. Notice here, Vayish lachem, from shalach, to send. We have a cow imperfect third masculine singular from shalach, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go, lechu, from halak. The hay here has elided or dropped out. The imperative, second or masculine plural, second masculine plural. So the cow imperative. So go and search diligently concerning the matter of the child. And it shall be that when you shall find him, notice Tim Sa'un is from matzah. It's the cow imperfect second person plural from matzah. When you shall find him, then you declare to me, he got Tim from nagad. It's a pay noon verb. The noon here has assimilated into the gimel, hin god Tim, from nagad. So you then declare to me that I might come. Ve'avoa lehishtachavot. Here we have a cow imperfect first person singular from bo, followed by the infinitive construct, lehishtachavot, that I might come to worship him. Then we go on, and of course, Herod in no way wants to worship Jesus, he wants to destroy him. And I'm reminded as I think about this text, there's several approaches to Christ. There's the wise men, the magi that want to find him and worship him, that love him. Then there's those that want to destroy him, like Herod, want to destroy everything about Christ. Herod represents that model. Then there are those that are indifferent, like the scribes. They knew where Christ was to be born, but it wasn't a big thing to them. And I think as I look at this text, I see three approaches that we see relative to Christ. But at any rate, going on then to verse 9. Hoide akusantes tu basileos eporuthesin kai educha aster han edan inte anatale praegen autus Theos eothon estate apano hu ein ta paidion. Then they heard, or those who heard the king, went and behold the star which they saw in the east. It went before them, and when it came, it stood above where the child was. It's interesting to me that this is why I'm understanding this more as the glory of God, because a star, if it was just a literal star, it would seem to me would not stand over the house and lead them. Where here we have, it looks to me like God's glory coming and sort of stopping and then picking it up again and leading them to where it comes over the house where the child was. The Latin reads, Qui cum audicent regum, when they heard the king, et ego stella, quam viderunt in oriente, and behold the star which they had seen in the east, ante cadebat, was going before them. Here we have the imperfect form, third masculine singular, until when coming it stood over, that is, usque dum veniens steret supra uber erat puer. It stood over where the child was. And then looking at the Hebrew of verse 10, it reads, Vayiru et ha-kochav, vayismahu simcha gedula adma'o. Let me go back here. Verse 9, I'm sorry. Vayehi heshom shom'am et devrei hamelech, vayelehu vahene ha-kochav asher ra'u bamisra darak lifnehem ad bohu el makom asher sham hayaled vaya'amod mimal lo. That is, and behold the words of the king, that they went, and behold the star which they had seen in the east. It looks to me like the Rahu here is from Ra'ah, but used in a pluperfect sense, which they had seen in the east. And it went before them until its coming unto the place where there was the child, until it came. Again, I believe we have an infinitive here in bohu, with a pronominal suffix, third masculine singular, until it came into the place where the child was, and it stood above uh, above it. And so again, I think we're seeing a miracle of God here in bringing this to pass through the Shekhinah, through the appearance of the glory of God. Then I'm at verse 10. Idantes detan astera akaresen karan megalen svadra. That is, and when seeing the star, they rejoice with great joy exceedingly. Notice idantes is from charao. It's the aorist participle, nominative masculine plural. When they saw the star, again, a temporal use, I believe, of the participle. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with great joy exceedingly. Uh, Akaresan is your aorist indicative active third person plural. They rejoice with great joy exceedingly. And then the Latin, videntes autem stellam gavissi sunt gaudio magno valde. Again, they rejoice with great joy when they had seen, or seeing. Here we have the participle in videntes, seeing the star. They rejoice with great joy. And then the Latin of verse 10. Let me just find that here. Vayiru et kochav vayismachu simcha gedula ad me'od. And when they saw the star, notice Yira or Yeru is from Ra'ah, to see. It's the cow imperfect third masculine or third person plural from masculine plural from Ra'ah. When they saw the star, then they rejoiced. Vayismachu from samach, to rejoice. They rejoiced, a cow imperfect third masculine plural from samach. They rejoice with simcha gedula ad me'od, with great joy. Simcha gedula ad me'od. So they rejoiced, and that should be our attitude when we come and worship Christ, a rejoicing. And I think Matthew is driving that home for his readers. Then we move to verse 11. Kai euthantes eistain oikian edan ta paidian meta marias tes metras autu. Kai pesantes prasu kunesin auto kai anoixantes tus thesaurus auton prasenekan auto dora klusan kai libanan kai sumnan. That is, and when they came unto the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and falling, or when they fell, they worshiped him, or by falling, maybe an instrumental use of the participle here. They worshiped him. And when they opened their treasures, they brought to him a gift, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And it's the word about the parsing again. And when they came, this is from erkamai, aorist participle, nominative masculine plural from erkamai. When they came into the house, they saw a dan from charao, aorist indicative active third person plural from charao. They saw the child with Mary his mother, and when they fell, or by falling, I'm wondering if it's not an instrumental use here from pipto, aorist, another participle, aorist participle, nominative masculine singular from pipto. When they fall, they worship. Prasekunesin, aorist indicative active third person plural from plaskuneo. They worshipped him and opening their treasures. Anoixantes, another aorist participle nominative masculine plural from anoigo. They opened their treasures and they brought to him prasenikon, uh, aorist indicative active third person plural from prosphero, I believe. They brought to him gold or gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And in the Latin, et entrantes domen viderunt puerum cum Maria Matre eius. And entering, a participle here in Latin as well, the house, they saw the perfect indicative active, third person plural from videro. They saw the child with Mary, his mother, and uh, and notice falling, they adoraverunt. I love that. They worship from this is where we get adoremos, adorare, to worship. They worshiped him and opening their treasures at apertis thesauris suis, they opened their treasures and they brought up to lerunt, another perfect. One of the things I'm learning as I'm working in the Latin is that erunt all the way through here is showing a perfect in Latin, third person plural. So they brought to him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Again, to the king. I think Matthew is probably in Matthew's thought and mind here. So then let me go to the Hebrew. Uh, it reads, Vayavohu habayata, when they came into the house, Vayimsa'u et hayeled im Miriam imo, and they found the child with Mary his mother, Vayiplu al panehim, and they fell upon their faces, Vayishtachavulo, and they worshipped him, Vayiftachu et otsarotam, and they brought forth their uh, gifts, and they brought near to him, Yakrivu lo mincha za'av, gift of gold, ulevona, and frankincense, vamur, and myrrh. Notice here, they found the child. Vayim sa'u is from matzah. It's the cow imperfect, third masculine plural from matzah. They found the child with Miriam, his mother, and they fell. Vayipalu from nafal. Notice it's a pay noon verb, and the noon here has assimilated into the pay here by progressive assimilation, causing the doggish forte. They fell upon their faces and they worshiped. Vayishtachavu from shacha, a hitpael imperfect, third person or third masculine plural from shacha. They fell to they worshipped him and they opened their treasures vayiftachu from patach to open, a cow imperfect, third masculine plural from patach. They opened their treasures and they brought near to him the gift of gold. Notice Vayakrivu is a hifil imperfect, third common or third masculine plural from karab, to bring near. Notice we have an AI vowel pattern that gives it away as a hifil stem. They brought near to him their gifts. And notice gold, zahav, ulevona, and frankincense, vamur, and myrrh. And then I'm coming to the last verse of this section, that is verse 12. And it reads, Kai klimatisthentes kat anar me anakapsai pras Herode di hales chadu anekoresin estain koran auton. Notice here, and being warned, or having been warned in a dream, and not to return to Herod, through another way they departed into their own country or their own land. Notice here, and krematisthentes, from krematizo. Here we have the aorist passive participle, nominative masculine plural, from krematizo. Another way, or being warned, I should say, not to return to Herod. Anakapsai is the aorist infinitive active. I'm thinking here of the luo. You think of the luo infinitive, lusai, lusasthai, and luthenai, and here we have anakapsai. So, not they being warned. Another way they to not return to Herod, or having been warned in a dream, not to return to Herod through another way. Anekoresin is from anakoreo, to depart. Here we have an aorist indicative active third person plural. They departed into their own country, or their own region, we could say. I noticed the Latin has et responso acceptus in somnis, and being warned in a dream, na riderunt ad Herodem, not to return to Herod, per aliam viam reversi sunt in regionem suum, that by another way they then return unto their region. And then looking at the Hebrew of verse 12, Vayetsu'u me Elohim b'chalom, that is, and being warned from God in a dream, lavilti shuv el horados, not to return to Herod. Notice shuv here we have an infinitive construct, not to return to Herod. V'yelechu b'derek acher el artsam, that they went on the way, on another way, literally, unto their land, artsam. Notice v'yelechu is from chalak. It's really a pei verb, sort of like your lamed. I'm sorry. It's a hey is your first radical that is dropped out, the first consonant. Sort of what happens with the lamed in the same way when you have a one lamed form. And the hey has elided, and we have compensatory lengthening under the yod prefix here from ahitic to etc. So they went into another way, on another way unto their land. So, what a beautiful lesson that Matthew is setting forth here about the Magi and how they came from a long distance to worship the Lord. And what a challenge to us to bow down before Him and worship Him, as I think this is what Matthew is wanting the reader to do, wanting us to do. So again, I thank you all. If anyone listens to this, I enjoy trying to work through the Greek and look at the grammar, and then working through the Latin. And I'm really learning Latin myself in this, and then a Hebrew. Uh, I've done most of my work in Hebrew Bible, but it's very helpful to me to be able to work through Delitzsch's translation of the Hebrew, which I think enriches my own understanding of this great Gospel of Matthew. So I'm going to stop there and thank you if anyone has listened or wants to listen, and I hope it's helpful to someone. Thank you.